Don't be greedy. That was the first thing my father said after my brother emptied my savings account. Not "Are you okay?" Not "What happened?" Just that. Don't be greedy. I was standing in my kitchen when the notification came through. Early. Too early for anything good. My phone lit up on the counter. One alert. Then another. I wiped my hands on a towel and picked it up. Transfer completed. $30,000. I stared at the number for a long time. Not because it was shocking. Because it wasn't. The account name sat right there at the top. Mine. The destination account. Also familiar. My brother's name. Clean. Direct. No hesitation. He hadn't tried to hide it. That part almost made me smile. Almost. I didn't call him. I didn't text. I didn't check for a mistake. I already knew there wasn't one. I just stood there. Phone in my hand. Coffee going cold beside me. Quiet. Very quiet. Then I called my father. He picked up on the second ring. Like he'd been expecting it. I told him what happened. Simple. No emotion. Just the facts. There was a transfer from my account. $30,000. It went to him. There was a pause. Not confusion. Not surprise. Just a pause. Then he exhaled. Slow. Measured. The way he does when he's about to explain something obvious to someone who should already understand. He's going through a rough time, he said. I didn't say anything. You know how he is. Another pause. Don't make this bigger than it needs to be. I leaned against the counter. The edge pressing into my palm. Grounding. Familiar. He took the money, I said. Without asking. My father didn't raise his voice. He never does. That would require urgency. This didn't have urgency to him. This had management. You have plenty of money, he said. Don't be greedy. There it was again. The word. Greedy. I looked at the window above the sink. Same view as every morning. Same quiet street. Same neighbor walking his dog. Everything normal. Everything exactly the same. Except it wasn't. It's not about being greedy, I said. It's about, he cut me off. Not harsh. Just final. It's about family, he said. Family helps family. I closed my eyes for a second. Just a second. Long. Enough to let the sentence settle. To let it land exactly where it always landed. On me. Let it go, he added. It's not going to change your life. I opened my eyes again. The coffee had stopped steaming. The room felt smaller. Or maybe quieter. I'm not sure which. I didn't argue. I never do. Okay, I said. He sounded relieved. Not grateful. Just relieved. Like a problem had been contained. Good, he said. I knew you'd understand. I ended the call and set my phone back on the counter. Same place it had been before everything changed. I stood there for a while. Listening to nothing. Watching nothing. Thinking about the number. $30,000. Thinking about the word. Greedy. And thinking about the one thing my father didn't know. That account wasn't what he thought it was. It was never mine to begin with. I did not move right away. I let the silence sit in the room the same way he had let it sit on the phone. Heavy. Unanswered. Then I picked up my phone again and opened the account. The balance was lower now. Not empty. Just wrong. The kind of wrong that looks small if you do not know what you are looking at. I knew exactly what I was looking at. I scrolled through the transaction history. The transfer had a timestamp. 2:14 in the morning. That told me everything I needed to know. People who believe they are allowed to take do not wait for daylight. They move when they think no one is watching. I checked the access logs. There it was. His device. His location. Clean. Simple. No attempt to hide. That was the pattern with him. Not careful. Just confident. Confident that nothing would happen. Confident that someone else would smooth it over. Usually me. I set the phone down and walked to the living room. Same couch. Same folded blanket on the armrest. Same quiet apartment I had paid for with years of doing things the right way. I sat down and leaned forward, elbows on my knees, hands together. Still. Thinking. Not about the money. Not yet. About the system. How long it had been working exactly like this. He takes. My father explains. I absorb. It was clean. Efficient. Predictable. I picked up my phone again and opened my messages. His name sat there. At the top. Last message from him 3 weeks ago. A question about rent. No thank you. No follow-up. Just a question. I did not open the thread. I did not type anything. I locked the screen and set it face down on the table. Then I opened a different app. The one my father used to check in on the account. He did not check often. Once or twice a year. Just enough to feel informed. Not enough to notice patterns. I looked at the last login. 6 months ago. That made sense. He trusted me. Completely. Without asking questions. Without checking details. The way you trust something you believe is stable. Fixed. Controlled. I stood up and walked back to the kitchen. The coffee was cold now. I poured it out. Watched it disappear down the sink without resistance. Easy. Quiet. Final. I filled the mug again and set it under the machine. The sound of it starting up filled the room for a few seconds. Mechanical. Consistent. Unlike everything else. While it ran, I opened the Notes app and typed a number. 30,000. Then another number. The total balance before the transfer. Then another. What was left? I did the math the same way I always did. Step by step. No shortcuts. No assumptions. The result sat there on the screen. Clear. Uncomfortable. I stared at it for a moment, then locked the phone again. I took the coffee and walked back to the living room. Sat down. One sip. Still too hot. I set it aside. I thought about calling him. Not to ask why. I already knew why. Because he needed something. Because he believed he could take it. Because no one had ever taught him the difference between access and ownership. I thought about telling him. Telling him exactly what he had done. Exactly whose money he had touched. Exactly how this would unfold. I did not do that either. I leaned back into the couch and looked at the ceiling. Quiet. Still. Waiting. There are moments when speaking fixes things. This was not one of them. This was a moment where silence did something else. It let people keep moving in the direction they had already chosen. It let the pattern continue just long enough to reveal itself completely. I picked up my phone one more time and opened the account. Again. Same numbers. Same transfer. Same name. Nothing had changed. Not yet. I locked the screen and placed it gently on the table in front of me. Then I said it out loud. Not loud enough for anyone else to hear. Just enough for the room to hold it. Okay. And I meant it. Not agreement. Not acceptance. Just acknowledgement. Of what had happened. Of what was coming next. Because in a few days, my father was going to check that account again. And when he did, he was not going to see my money missing. He was going to see his. I went to work like nothing had happened. Same building. Same glass doors. Same security guard who nodded when I walked in at 8:12 a.m. He always noticed the time. I always noticed that he noticed. That is how I move through the world. Details. Patterns. Small things that tell you the bigger truth if you let them. I took the elevator to the 7th floor and stepped out into the office. Quiet at that hour. A few early arrivals. Screens lighting up. Coffee machines humming. Everything normal. I set my bag down at my desk, turned on my computer, and logged into the system. Numbers filled the screen. Clean. Structured. Predictable. Unlike people. I opened the portfolio I had been reviewing the day before. A client account. Retirement planning. Long-term stability. Risk management. I adjusted a projection, recalculated a distribution, flagged an inconsistency. The work grounded me. It always does. Numbers do not lie. They do not justify themselves. They just sit there waiting for someone to read them correctly. Around 9:30, my phone buzzed. I did not look at it right away. I finished what I was doing first. Closed the file. Saved the changes. Then I picked it up. His name. One message. Hey, did you see the transfer? I will pay you back soon. I read it once. Then again. Same tone. Casual. No apology. No urgency. Just a statement. A promise with no timeline attached. I typed nothing. Locked the phone. Set it face down next to my keyboard. 10 minutes later, it buzzed again. I really needed it. Things got tight. I looked at the message. The words sat there, waiting for a response. I did not give them one. Instead, I opened my email and scrolled. To an old thread. Months ago. My father's messages. Short. Direct. Can you move the funds into that account? Keep it separate. Do not mention it to your mother. I remembered the first time he asked me to manage it. We were sitting at his kitchen table. Same table where we had eaten dinner every night growing up. He leaned forward, hands flat on the wood, voice low. I need someone I can trust, he said. You are the only one I can trust with this. Not him. Not my brother. Me. I had nodded. Said yes. Like I always did. That account had grown quietly over the years. Contributions here and there. Careful management. No risk. No noise. Just steady growth. It was not flashy money. It was not visible money. It was the kind of money you build when you are thinking about the future, not the present. I minimized the email and opened the account again. Same numbers. Same gap where 30,000 used to be. I hovered over the transaction details. Confirmed everything I already knew. Then I closed it. Around noon, my father called. I let it ring once. Twice. Then I answered. Did you talk to him? He asked. No greeting. No context. Straight to the point. No, I said. A pause. Why not? He asked. Because I did not need to, I said. He exhaled. That same controlled breath. He is under a lot of pressure right now, he said. You should not make this harder than it already is. I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window. Cars moving below. People crossing the street. Everyone going somewhere. I am not making anything harder, I said. I am not doing anything. That part was true. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Good. Just leave it alone. He will sort it out." I closed my eyes briefly. The sentence sat there between us. Familiar. Predictable. "He always does," I said. My father did not hear the weight in that sentence. Or maybe he chose not to. "Exactly," he replied. "That is how this works." I opened my eyes again. Looked back at my screen. At the numbers waiting for me. At the structure that made sense. "Okay," I said. We ended the call. I set the phone down and rested my hands on the desk. Still. Quiet. Then. I opened a new document and started outlining something I had not needed to outline before. Not a plan to get the money back. Not a plan to confront anyone. Something else. A way to make sure that when this finally surfaced, it would surface clean. Clear. Undeniable. Because the problem was not the transfer. The problem was the belief behind it. And beliefs do not change when you argue with them. They change when reality does not match the story anymore. I saved the document and closed it. Then I went back to work. Same numbers. Same patterns. Same calm surface. And underneath it, something shifting into place. That night, I drove to my parents' house without telling anyone. Same street. Same driveway. The porch light was on even though it was not fully dark yet. It always came on early. My father liked things to look occupied. I parked, sat in the car for a moment, and looked at the house. Nothing about it had changed. White siding. 2 windows on the left. 1 on the right. The same place where everything had always been decided quietly. I picked up my phone and checked the account one more time before going in. Same numbers. Same gap. Still untouched. I locked the phone and stepped out. The air was cool. Still. I walked up to the door and knocked once. Not loud. Just enough. I heard footsteps inside. Then the door opened. My father stood there, one hand still on the handle. He looked at me for a second, like he was trying to place the timing. Then he stepped back. "You should have called," he said. I walked in without answering. The house smelled the same. Coffee. Wood. Something warm in the kitchen. My mother's voice came from the other room. "Who is it?" "It is her," my father said. Just that. Not my name. Just her. I set my bag down on the chair by the door and walked into the kitchen. My mother was at the counter, cutting something slowly, carefully. She looked up when she saw me and smiled. Soft. Real. "You came by," she said. "That is nice." I nodded. "I was in the area," I said. It was not true. She did not question it. She never does. That is her role in the system. She accepts the version she is given. My father stayed in the doorway, watching. Not tense. Just aware. "We already talked about this," he said. "There is nothing to handle." I leaned against the counter across from my mother. Kept my voice even. "I am not here to handle anything," I said. He frowned slightly. "Then why are you here?" I looked at him. Then at the table. The same table. Scratches in the wood from years ago. Marks that never fully disappear. "I wanted to understand something," I said. He crossed his arms. Defensive. Quiet. "What is there to understand?" he asked. I let a second pass. Not too long. Just enough. "When you said I have plenty of money," I said, "what did you mean?" My mother stopped cutting. The knife rested on the board. Still. My father did not answer right away. He looked at me like the question itself was unnecessary. "You are doing well," he said finally. "You have a good job. You have savings. I nodded slowly. Yes, I said. I do. Another pause. Then I added, and that account. His eyes shifted slightly. Just for a second. Small. But there. What about it? He asked. I reached into my bag and took out a printed statement. I had printed it before I left my apartment. Clean. Clear. Every number visible. I set it on the table between us. Not sliding it. Just placing it there. I wanted to make sure we are talking about the same thing, I said. My mother looked down at the paper. Then back at me. Confused. My father did not move. You are overthinking this, he said. It is just money. I almost smiled at that. Almost. Yes, I said. It is. I tapped the paper lightly with my finger. Once. And this is the account you asked me to manage, I said. His expression did not change. But the silence did. It shifted. Became sharper. More precise. My mother looked between us. What account? She asked quietly. No one answered her. Not yet. My father's eyes moved to the paper. Then back to me. Measuring. Calculating. Why are you bringing this up now? He asked. I met his gaze. Steady. Because the numbers changed, I said. Another pause. Longer this time. My mother set the knife down completely. Her hands rested on the counter. Waiting. My father looked at the paper again. Really looked this time. At the numbers. At the line where the transfer sat. At the amount that was no longer there. His jaw tightened just slightly. Almost invisible. But I saw it. I always do. He said he took from your savings, my father said slowly. I did not answer right away. I let the sentence hang there. Incomplete. Then I said, that is what he thinks. The room went quiet. Not loud quiet. Not dramatic. Just the kind of quiet where something important is about to be understood whether anyone wants it or not. My mother looked at me first, then at him. What do you mean that is what he thinks? She asked, her voice softer now, but no longer casual. My father did not answer her. He was still looking at the paper. At the numbers. At the line that should not have been there. I watched him read it again without moving his head, just his eyes. Slower this time. Careful. The way people read when they already know something is wrong but have not decided how wrong yet. You told me this was your savings, he said finally, his voice controlled, but tighter than before. I did not correct him immediately. I let the statement sit there. Then I said the account was in my name. My mother's brow furrowed slightly. What does that mean? She asked. I turned to her, kept my tone even. It means I manage it, I said. It does not mean it belongs to me. My father's eyes lifted from the paper to me. Direct now. Focused. Explain that, he said. I nodded once. Not fast. Not slow. Just enough. You asked me to hold it, I said. To keep it separate. To manage it carefully. You said you did not want it mixed with anything else. My mother looked at him then. Really looked. What is she talking about? She asked. He did not answer her. Not yet. He was still looking at me. Measuring. Calculating the distance between what he thought was true and what was actually in front of him. That is my retirement fund, he said, almost more to himself than to me. I did not respond. I did not need to. The sentence completed itself in the room. My mother's hand moved slightly on the counter. Just enough to show she was no longer steady. Retirement fund, she repeated. What retirement fund? My father finally turned to her, but only halfway. Not fully. It is nothing, he said. Just something I set aside. She did not accept that. I could see it. The way her shoulders stiffened. The way her eyes stayed on him. Set aside where? She asked. No answer. The silence stretched. Not empty. Full. My father looked back at the paper again. At the transfer. At the number that had been removed from something he had built quietly over years. He took $30,000, he said. This time there was no softness in it. Just fact. I nodded. Yes, I said. Another pause. Then he asked, did he know? I shook my head once. No, I said. He thought it was mine. My mother let out a small breath. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a release of something she had not been prepared to hold. And you knew this would happen? My father asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. I met his gaze. I knew it could, I said. He leaned back slightly, arms still crossed, but no longer relaxed. And you did nothing? He asked. The question hung there. Not angry. Not yet. Just sharp. I considered it for a second. Then I answered. I chose not to stop it, I said. My mother looked at me again, confusion mixed with something else now. Something closer to concern. Why would you do that? She asked. I turned to her, kept my voice calm. Because stopping it would not change anything, I said. It would just delay it. My father exhaled slowly. Longer this time. Not controlled. Not measured. Just real. This is not a delay, he said. This is a problem. I nodded slightly. Yes, I said. It is. The room went quiet again. But it was a different kind of quiet now. Not the kind that avoids. The kind that reveals. My father looked at the paper one more time, then set his hand on the table beside it. Firm. Grounding himself. Call him, he said. I did not move. No, I said. He looked up at me sharply. Why not? He asked. I held his gaze. Steady. Because now, I said, he needs to call you. My father did not like that answer. I could see it in the way his jaw shifted, just slightly, like he was holding something back. Not anger. Not yet. Control. He is not going to call me, he said. He thinks this is your account. I nodded once. Exactly, I said. My mother looked between us again, her confusion now turning into something heavier. Why does any of this have to be so complicated? She asked quietly. No one answered her. Because it had always been complicated. It just had never been visible before. My father reached for his phone on the counter and picked it up. His grip was tighter than usual. I watched him scroll, find the contact, and press call. He did not put it on speaker. He did not need to. The room was quiet enough that every word would carry. It rang once. Twice. Then my brother answered. Hey, he said, casual, like nothing had shifted. I was going to call you later. My father did not greet him. What did you do? He asked. Direct. No space to soften it. There was a pause on the other end. Short. Then, what do you mean? My brother said. Same tone. Same confidence. My father's eyes flicked to me for half a second, then back to the floor. The transfer, he said. $30,000. Another pause. Longer this time. Then my brother let out a small breath. I told her I would pay it back, he said. It is not a big deal. My father's hand tightened around the phone. Whose money do you think that is? He asked. There was a slight shift in the air. Subtle. But there. Hers, my brother said. Immediate. Certain. I did not move. I did not look away. I just listened. My father closed his eyes for a second. Just a second. Then he said, slower now, that account is not hers. Silence. Real silence this time. No quick answer. No casual tone. Just nothing. My mother's hand moved to the edge of the counter, gripping it lightly. Waiting. My brother spoke again, but the confidence was thinner now. What do you mean? He asked. My father opened his eyes and looked at the paper on the table. Then at me. Then back down again. I mean, he said, that money is mine. Another silence. Heavier. My brother did not speak right away. When he did, his voice was different. Lower. Less certain. I did not know that. He said. It was not an apology. Not yet. Just a statement. My father did not respond immediately. He let that sit. Then he said, no. You did not. The words landed flat. Final. My brother tried again. I thought it was just sitting there, he said. I needed it. I was going to put it back. My father's expression did not change, but something in the room did. The illusion of control. The idea that this would resolve itself quietly. It was gone now. When? My father asked. Simple. Direct. No emotion. My brother hesitated. That was new. Soon, he said. My father let out a breath. Not controlled this time. Not measured. Just real. You do not take money like that, he said. You do not decide it is yours because it is available. There was no response on the other end. Just breathing. My father looked at me again. Longer this time. Then back at the phone. You need to fix this, he said. All of it. Another pause. Then my brother said quietly, I will. My father ended the call without saying anything else. He placed the phone back on the counter, slower than before. More deliberate. The room stayed quiet. My mother looked at him, then at me, then back at the table. So what happens now? She asked. My father did not answer right away. He was still looking at the numbers. At what had been there. At what was missing. Then he said, almost to himself, now we deal with it. I nodded slightly. Not an agreement. Just acknowledgement. Because for the first time, this was not being managed. It was being faced. No one moved for a while after the call ended. The house felt different now. Not louder. Not quieter. Just clearer. Like something that had been sitting under the surface for years had finally come into view. My father stayed by the counter, one hand resting near his phone, the other flat against the wood. Still. Thinking. My mother stepped back slowly and took a seat at the table. Not her usual spot. Just the closest chair. I did not know about any of this, she said quietly. Not to accuse. Not to defend. Just to state it. My father nodded once without looking at her. I know, he said. The words were simple, but they carried something heavier than before. Not control. Not management. Something closer to recognition. I stayed where I was, leaning lightly against the counter. Watching. Not intervening. This was not my moment to fill. My father picked up the statement again and read it from the top. Line by line. Slower than before. Careful. When he finished, he set it down exactly where it had been. Same position. Same angle. How long has it been there? He asked. He was not looking at me when he said it. I answered anyway. A few years, I said. He nodded again. Small. Measured. And you managed all of it? He asked. Yes, I said. He looked up at me then. Really looked. Not past me. Not through me. At me. Without telling anyone, he said. It was not a question. I met his gaze. You asked me not to, I said. Another pause. He nodded once more. This time slower. As if he was placing that piece into a larger structure he was only now starting to see. My mother looked at him. Why would you keep something like that separate, she asked. There was no accusation in her voice. Just confusion. My father did not answer right away. He took a breath, then another. Because I wanted control over it, he said finally. Honest. Simple. My mother absorbed that. Quietly. And now, she asked. He looked at the paper again. At the missing number. Then at me. Now I do not have control over it, he said. I did not respond. I did not need to. He already understood that part. The room stayed still for a few seconds longer. Then my mother turned to me. Why did you not tell him sooner, she asked. Her voice was softer than before, but steadier. I thought about that question for a moment. Not because I did not have an answer. Because I wanted to say it clearly. Because telling him would not change the pattern, I said. She frowned slightly. What pattern, she asked. I glanced at my father, then back at her. The one where he takes and it gets explained, I said. No one interrupted. No one disagreed. The silence after that was different. Not empty. Not uncertain. Just acknowledged. My father shifted his weight slightly and stepped away from the counter. Slower than usual. More deliberate. That stops now, he said. It was not loud. It did not need to be. My mother looked at him, searching his face for something. Does it? She asked. He did not answer immediately. He looked at me instead. And for the first time, there was no assumption in his expression. No expectation. Just consideration. It has to, he said finally. I straightened slightly, not in reaction, just in awareness. Because this was the moment where things could change. Or not. My father reached for his phone again, then stopped. His hand hovered above it for a second before pulling back. He looked at me. What would you do? He asked. The question landed differently than anything he had said before. Not instruction. Not correction. A question. I considered it for a moment. Then I said, I would make sure it does not happen again. He nodded slowly. How? He asked. I held his gaze. Calm. Steady. By changing who has access, I said. The words were simple. But they carried weight. My father looked at the paper one more time. Then at the phone. Then back at me. Do it, he said. No hesitation this time. No explanation. Just a decision. I nodded once. Okay, I said. And this time it meant something different. My father did not hesitate after that. He stepped away from the counter, picked up his phone again, and this time he did not stop halfway. He handed it to me. Do whatever needs to be done, he said. No explanation. No conditions. Just that. I took the phone, unlocked it, and opened the banking app. Same account. Same numbers. Same missing 30,000. I tapped into the settings and scrolled to access permissions. His name. My name. And my brother's. That was the part that had always been invisible to him. Access looks harmless when nothing has gone wrong. I turned the screen slightly so he could see it. He has full access, I said. My father leaned closer, eyes narrowing slightly as he read. Remove it, he said. Simple. Final. I tapped once. Confirm. His name disappeared from the list. Clean. Immediate. No noise. Just gone. I handed the phone back to my father. He looked at the screen for a second longer, then locked it and set it down on the table. My mother watched all of this quietly, her hands folded. Together now. Not confused anymore. Just processing. Will that fix it? She asked. I shook my head slightly. It will stop it from happening again, I said. She nodded slowly. And the money? She asked. My father answered this time. He will return it, he said. Not hopeful. Not doubtful. Just stated. I did not correct him. Not yet. Because returning money and understanding why it was taken are not the same thing. My phone buzzed on the table. I glanced down. His name again. I did not reach for it. Not immediately. It buzzed a second time. Then stopped. My father noticed. Answer him, he said. I picked up the phone and opened the message. I did not know it was his, it read. I will figure something out. I stared at the words for a moment. Same pattern. A problem. Then a vague solution. No details. No timeline. I typed slowly. Not a paragraph. Not an explanation. Just one sentence. Call him. I sent it and set the phone back down. We did not have to wait long. My father's phone rang within a minute. He looked at the screen, then answered. Yes, he said. His voice was different now. Not controlled. Not managing. Direct. I listened without looking at him. My brother spoke first, his voice lower than before. I am going to pay it back, he said. My father did not respond right away. How? He asked. There was a pause. Longer than before. I will sell some things, my brother said. I will cut expenses. I just need time. My father looked at the table while he listened. At the paper. At the numbers. You should have asked, he said. Not loud. Not harsh. Just true. Another pause. I know, my brother said. This time it sounded closer to something real. My father exhaled slowly. You will fix this, he said. Not because it is money. Because it is not yours. The line stayed quiet for a second. Then, I understand, my brother said. My father ended the call without adding anything else. He set the phone down again, in the same place as before. Same position. Same angle. But everything about the moment was different. My mother looked at him, then at me. So that is it? She asked. My father shook his head slightly. No, he said. That is the start. I nodded. Once. Because that was exactly what it was. Not the end of a problem. The end of a pattern. And patterns do not break loudly. They break quietly. One decision at a time. 3 weeks later, I was back at the same table. Same chairs. Same light above us. But nothing felt the same. My father sat across from me, his hands resting flat on the wood, not tense this time, just present. My mother moved quietly between the kitchen and the table, placing plates down, adjusting things that did not need adjusting. It was not about the food. It was about the space between us. My brother arrived last. He stood in the doorway for a second before stepping in, like he was not sure how to enter a room he had always walked into without thinking. He looked at my father first, then at me, then down at the floor. Hey, he said. Simple. No confidence behind it this time. My father nodded once. Sit, he said. No anger. No raised voice. Just direction. My brother pulled out the chair and sat down slowly. His hands rested on the table, then pulled back, then rested again. Small movements. Uncertain. I watched him for a moment, then looked down at the folder I had placed in front of me. Clean. Organized. Everything inside it exactly where it needed to be. My father spoke first. "Did you bring it?" he asked. My brother nodded quickly and reached into his jacket, pulling out an envelope. He placed it on the table between us. Not sliding it. Just placing it there. Same way I had done with the statement. "It is not all of it," he said. His voice was steady, but quieter than I had ever heard it. "But it is most of it. I will have the rest next week." My father did not touch the envelope. He looked at it for a second, then at my brother. "How did you get it?" he asked. My brother hesitated, then answered. "I sold the car," he said. "And I canceled the lease on the apartment. I am staying with a friend for now." My mother stopped moving for a moment. Just long enough to take that in. Then she continued, slower this time. My father nodded once. Not approval. Not disapproval. Just acknowledgement. "And the rest?" he asked. I picked up. "Extra work," my brother said. "I will finish it." My father held his gaze for a second longer, then finally reached forward and picked up the envelope. He did not open it. He just held it. Then he set it down again. "This is not about the money," he said. The words were the same, but the meaning was different now. My brother nodded. "I know," he said. And this time it sounded like he did. The room went quiet again. Not heavy. Not tense. Just still. My father looked at me then. "Will you fix the account?" he asked. I nodded. "I already did," I said. "It is secured. It is structured properly now." He held my gaze for a moment, then nodded back. Slower. More deliberate. "Good," he said. My mother finally sat down at the table, her hands folding together gently. She looked at me, her expression softer than before, but different too. Clearer. "You handled this well," she said. I did not respond right away. Not because I did not hear her. Because I did. And it mattered more than it should have. "I did what needed to be done," I said. My brother looked at me then. Really looked. Not past me. Not through me. At me. "I am sorry," he said. No explanation. No excuse. Just that. I met his gaze and nodded once. Not forgiving. Not rejecting. Just acknowledging. Because some things do not need a speech. They need a change. My father leaned back slightly in his chair, his posture different now. Less rigid. Less certain. But more real. He looked around the table. At all of us. Then he said, quietly, "We are going to do things differently." No one argued. No one questioned it. Because for the first time it did not sound like a rule. It sounded like a decision. Dinner moved slowly after that. Conversations were smaller. Simpler. But they were real. And when I stood up to leave, I paused at the door for a second and looked back at the table. Same table. Same people. But something had shifted. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough. Because respect does not arrive with noise. It arrives in moments like this. Quiet. Clear. And impossible to ignore.